Well, opposition leader Peter Dutton is ramping up his support for nuclear power, saying it could be one of the most cost-effective ways for Australia to meet its growing energy demands. In a speech today, Mr Dutton will accuse the government of being mesmerised by the glare of solar panels and wind turbines. And the opposition leader joins me live now in the studio. Peter, thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure, Sarah. Thank you.
Now, your government had a decade to act on nuclear power. Why didn't you?
Well, you can make that argument. I think what we need to do is look at what's the most cost-effective, what's going to bring down electricity prices in our country, because they're going up by 29% again this month. And if you look at Canada, they're paying about a third of the prices that we're paying. The small modular reactor is the same technology as the government is using on the submarines, so we can deal with it safely and it can firm up renewables. It's not a competitor to renewables because we want solar and wind in the system, but as we know, overnight time, the battery just doesn't have enough charge to provide us with stable electricity. And authorities at the moment are warning that without a baseload power, the lights are going to be going out, there'll be disruptions in the system.
And obviously we do know that households need that help when it comes to their energy bills going up, as you said,
Absolutely.
by 29%. But I guess the issue here is, I mean, this is kind of pie-in-the-sky stuff. This is going to cost hundreds of millions of dollars to even establish.
But I just think if you look at what is happening at the moment, the government's proposing the new 28,000 kilometres of poles and wires at the cost of over $100 billion. There are some estimates that it'll be about $1.3 trillion over the course of the next period to get us to the renewable level that the government wants. Now, as I say, we're all in favour of renewables, but you need to firm it up because otherwise you get disruption in the system. That intermittent, supply of power, reliant on the wind or the sun, if we get a rainy period or whatever, the lights go out, which means the storerooms, cold rooms don't work at the IGA or at the butcher shop, and the lights in this building don't come on.
You're going to have to get back into power, I think, for it, because there's no way Labor's entertaining this idea at all.
Well, it's interesting because the South Australian Premier, Premier Malinauskas, is in favour of nuclear, and he gets it. There are 50 countries in the world at the moment looking at nuclear. There are 32 using it. And the small modular reactor, people should Google it at home because you can turn off old coal-fired power stations, put the small modular reactors in, and it allows that to be distributed across the existing network. So why not just have a conversation about it?
All right, let's turn our attention now to what's been branded as a massive failure in public administration, of course being the 2015 robo-debt scheme, which chased down close to $500,000 worth of inaccurate debts from welfare recipients. I mean, Peter, this was a mess. The Royal Commission will hand down its findings today on who was responsible. It was really ugly, and especially going after some of the most vulnerable people in our community. Are you worried about this? Well,
Sarah, let's wait and see what the report has to say. There's no question about why it's being dropped today because we're a week out from the by-election in Fadden, so the government's trying to squeeze every political drop out of it. But if there are lessons to be learned, if there are laws to be changed, then you take notice of those findings.
But you must be bracing for some ugly findings here. I mean, we've had inquiry after inquiry here that has blamed your government when you're in power for one of the worst schemes we've seen in this country. I mean, it's shameful.
But again, it's been ramped up by Bill Shorten and...
But that doesn't matter. I mean, you can politicise it, but at the end of the day, people lost their lives here.
The objective of any government, of this government, is to make sure that people who have been overpaid through the payment system repay that money. I mean, that happens every day in the welfare system now. If there are breakdowns in the system, which clearly there were, then we'll look at the recommendations. But don't lose sight of the fact that the government has politicised this big time, and they're dropping it out now as a way to try and smear our candidate, our chances in Fadden in the by-election, which is next weekend.
Yeah, no, but you must concede that it was a bad policy.
Well, there's no question that there were problems. That's why the Royal Commission's been set up. But I think we wait to see what the inquiry has to say.
All right, just very quickly on the Ashes. Are we going to take out the Poms?
I'm looking a bit bleary, but I can get to tea. I can't get the stumps. So I watched Mitch Marsh last night. He's on fire, and thank goodness he was. But yeah, they can get there. And does anyone believe that the Poms wouldn't have taken that wicket? Johnny Bairstow, I mean, he's red hot. So, yes, we can win it, hopefully 5-0.
All right, thanks so much for coming in. Appreciate it, Peter. Carlos.
You can get to tea, but you can't get to stumps. What sort of a Queenslander are you?
I was late for this. Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and...
What's my name again?
Oh my God. Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports, and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
That never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?